What flaw do you accept about your significant other that would be a deal breaker for many? TLDR, my wife is very sick, and she deserves better. My wife is ill, debilitatingly so, and she has been for years. It's not really a flaw, and it's certainly not her fault by any means, but I can see it being a deal breaker for many. We've been married for almost a decade. She was my SO for a while before that, and we were friends growing up. I've known her forever. She's always had health problems, but that didn't stop her from an active lifestyle. She still had a deep love for sports, and despite constant health concerns, she competed at a very high level. A few incidents after that left her unable to do so anymore, and so we settled down. It wasn't until after we had kids that the nature of her condition became truly apparent. No doctor has been able to give us a name, but the symptoms are awful. She spends many days in bed, sometimes without the strength to even get to the bathroom on her own. We've had organ failures, and emergency surgeries. Her fibromyalgia is ever present, and we go back and forth between her needing massages just to get a little relief, and not being able to be touched because it hurts so bad. It breaks my heart to try to offer a comforting touch, and have her flinch away in pain. Our kids don't know what it's like to play with mommy very much, because she just doesn't have the strength. When I am working, I have to leave her at home, and hope the kids listen, and are kind to mommy. They don't understand yet, though, so I often come home to a wife who is crying, and overwhelmed with kids who are able to get away with anything on her bad days. When I'm not working, I often bring her meals in bed. I'm rewarded with a small, strained, but beautiful smile when I do. The house is often a mess. I'm the sole income for our family, and I have to either help with all the chores, or do them all myself. Our adorable kids are rambunctious little goblins, which wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't just me, but oftentimes it is. Between the housework, the income work, the healthcare work, and the childcare work, I try to fit a little time in for myself whenever I can. I often get some gaming in when everyone else is in bed, my wife is sleeping, and I can finally breathe at the end of the day. I know it's all going to start again tomorrow. We both have our moments of depression. She feels overwhelmed because the tunnel we're in may never end, and me, I'm in the exact same tunnel. I don't see an end either. Intimacy has been a huge struggle as well. She's the most beautiful girl I've ever known, and I've never been half as attracted to anyone else. It's been that way since we were teenagers. We used to go at it all the time. It's hard to make romantic approaches now when I don't know if they'll hurt her or not. There's a lot of frustration involved. I don't want anyone else, and I don't want to do it myself. I want her so badly, and she's right there next to me, but she's finally sleeping after hurting all day. I can't do that to her. She tries so hard when she can, but I can see it when she's hurting, and trying to hide it from me. Those moments when we do, though, when she tiredly tries to make sure that I'm satisfied, make her the sweetest girl on the planet. She tries whenever she can, often when she shouldn't. It isn't always enough for either of us, but it's what we have. When she does feel well, it's like we're newlyweds all over again. Those precious days of sunlit smiles, and moonlit passions, the days when cuddling doesn't hurt, and we can't get close enough. When I'm having a pillow fight with the kids, and she can jump in for just a little while, only to have me tackle her, and tickle her senseless with kids climbing all over us. Late nights playing video games after the kids have gone to sleep, or watching silly movies over a hastily thrown together dinner. I wish those days would stay when they're here, and I miss them dearly when they're gone. I'd do it again, though. No matter how many times I carry her around the house, no matter how I lose my patience with a messy home, and no rest. I'm so tired, but I'd do it again. She deserves better than this, and I'm going to make sure she gets as good as I can give her. We don't have much money and medical bills aren't cheap, especially when you don't know what is wrong, and have to keep going to doctor after doctor. Life is hard, but I'd do it again. I love this girl, and she's going to be happy. I'm going to make sure of it every day that I can. When she gets stressed she screams. It is horrible. I learned how her mother treated her, and understand it a lot more. She already been to therapy once she realized how much it troubles me. That says a lot about her character. She saw a problem, and is working on it. Now when she gets stressed, and raises her voice, she knows I will just leave the house. I mean no disrespect, just leaving until she calms down. His intense secrecy. He doesn't even keep things secret on purpose, he just doesn't mention things as a default, and the result is very, very weird. His whole family is like this, freakishly unwilling to talk about themselves. He is so secretive that I found out after 7 years together that he has 2 brothers, not one. Nothing scandalous or anything at all, they talk on the phone once every few months. And when I emailed his brother he wrote back right away to say hi, seems like a nice normal dude, but I guess since he lives in New Zealand he doesn't come to family gatherings, so I haven't met him. This is par for the course. I found out about a grad degree when we ran into one of his profs at a burrito place. When I asked why he never mentioned his brother, he just said that he would have if I asked. I don't know that how many brothers do you have is a question you should have to ask, but apparently they don't fully close the tops on jars. With my man, he needs time to think about serious subjects or even minor decisions sometimes, so you can't expect him to give an answer right away. It can be really frustrating, especially when you kind of need an answer right away. I've come to think of it as him being very invested in even little things in our lives because he cares so much. Because this is how his brain works, I try to give him lead time, or if a decision needs to be made right away, I offer to be the one to make the call, which takes it off his plate altogether. He accommodates my anxieties and quirks, so it's definitely not a one-way street. He wore a fedora in one of his senior high school photos. Both of us prefer to spend all of our time together. It's not a codependent/dysfunctional thing because neither of us gets upset or stressed out if we can't, but we're happiest in each other's company and, given a choice, we'd always choose to be together. The whole pandemic situation hasn't been a problem for us because it's actually allowed us to be together more as is our preference. However, I understand this doesn't work for most people, but it's always worked for us. He talks a lot. He rambles about everything possible, from the origin of salty licorice to why there are so many irregular verbs in French to his old work experiences to the most minute historical or mythological facts. Sometimes he'll laugh when I'm working, I'll go and he'll talk for 5 minutes straight about some obscure fact he just learned. I love his enthusiasm. Smile. I genuinely like his little rants as signs of his boundless intellectual curiosity. I always learn something, and we'll never run out of things to talk about. And besides, I talk a lot too, so we're well matched. She doesn't cook. Doesn't bother me since I love cooking, and worked in catering for many years, but might be a deal breaker for some. I don't know if mental illness is a flaw, per se, but I assume that intense chronic depression would generally be a deal breaker for most. He's truly a lovely person, and when he's happy, it's like the sun comes out. One of my goals is to eventually get him to understand what I see in him. We both know that I'm not his therapist. That's not what's going on. Everything's been lousy these past few months for a variety of reasons, but I keep holding out hope that it'll get better. Even in the time I've known him, he's made some pretty significant improvements. Honestly, I think my boyfriend is pretty accepting about my god-awful snoring. I've never thought to record it, but the impressions he does are not flattering. She's not very good at sex. I love her, and marriage isn't all about sex. She had an eating disorder, bulimia, most of her life, and just kind of freezes up when we're intimate. We have 3 gorgeous and healthy kids after losing 4, and wondering if we would ever have any. We have a good life, just not good sex. She's a compulsive liar, and was raised by one. This would be a huge red flag for most people, but her tells are pretty obvious, and she's consciously been trying hard not to lie at all. Borderline personality disorder. It's sometimes very problematic, but we've gotten better. And if she's willing to tolerate my bullcrap, it's really the least I can do. He has a lot of sensory issues. Examples: if you repeat the same word or phrase a few times in a row, he'll flinch. It's like it literally zaps his brain. Sometimes his skin is extra sensitive in a bad way, and so he can't hug or cuddle even though he really loves cuddling. He calls these sensory storms. He has to have socks on at literally all times aside from when he's in the shower. His feet are extremely ticklish in a bad way, and the socks block things, even breezes from a fan, from touching his feet. Sometimes he can't sleep in the same bed because of the above-mentioned sensory storm issue. If he brushes against my body at those times, it feels physically painful/uncomfortable. He has to engage in a variety of twitches. You wouldn't notice them just looking at him, but if you're cuddling him you can feel them. Sometimes he just feels too hot for no reason, and at those times he also can't be touched too much. Some of these issues are only present a minority of the time, but when they are present, some of them can be annoying, but he's more annoyed by them than I am, since he is frustrated with his own body and neurology at such times. Whereas for me, it's more like I just feel sorry that he's uncomfortable. If you've guessed he might be autistic, bingo. He is. She won't let me do her nails, or even brush her hair. It's a good thing her hair is short, but I have to drug her, and haul her to the vet for a claw trim. I suppose the distance, geographic, or her depression, but man, when she's happy at the greatest. I don't know about accept, but my significant other is not as attracted to me as he used to be / as I need him to be. I'm trying to work on me first before I decide I can't deal with it anymore. But it sucks pretty hard. I miss being wanted. Asexuality. His stupid dad jokes. He leaves a few chips in the bag, and puts it back in the cupboard. Honestly, I still might have to leave. Smoking cigs. She's vegan. A lot of guys would have a problem with that. I got used to it. She doesn't force it on me, but she cooks most the meals, so that's what I mostly eat. I don't like to cook. We go out to restaurants sometimes, and that's when I'll get a burger or something, with cheese. In the end, I do notice that I feel better when I eat vegan. Can't give up cheese, though. He can drink too much, and sometimes becomes unresponsive when I try to talk to him. He doesn't yell or get violent, he just drinks too much then falls asleep, and will wake up, but won't answer any of my questions or respond when I ask him to look at me or open his eyes. I keep a close eye on him, checking his pulse, and breathing, and when I can I force him to drink water before he falls asleep, and when he has a few moments of clarity to actually drink water then go back to sleep. I hate it because I stay up all night checking on him to make sure he is okay. The first time it happened I almost called an ambulance, but now I'm used to it, and just keep an eye on him, and try to make sure he doesn't drink too much. He's gay. He's not adventurous food-wise at all. I'll make some kind of meat at home, and insists on me only using salt and pepper. She's a bish, like a real bish, like a dog. Best partner to have, always happy to see you. The problem is I have to cook every night, and she never pays when we go out. The way she puts the toilet paper on the roller dropping down the back like some savage. He has really bad nightmares. He will wake up screaming and or wake up into a panic attack. I try to help him the best I can, but yelling and screaming are just loud, sudden noises freak me out. The amount of times we've had attacks at the same time. I have my own problems and issues. He understands and tries to help me. How I help him? We both have anxiety disorders, which makes life really difficult, but we understand each other and each other's problems. He can't order food at restaurants. I don't like eating in public = we don't go out to eat. He can't sleep without music playing. I can't easily make decisions. I have OCD things. I am in charge of the TV or music volume. Only acceptable numbers are 7, 13, 21, 27, and 50. Not existing. He has CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, and can't do as much as normal, but he is the kindest, cutest, most understanding person I have ever met. We can't plan any long trips or exhausting activities, but that's okay. We can talk for hours, and it won't get boring. Please correct me if something is wrong or sounds weird. It's my second language. Thanks. He's a dirty bastard. If I didn't tell him to shower, he will go weeks without showering. Oddly enough, he doesn't smell or get rashes though. I've always been perplexed by that. If I don't wash and lay out clothes for him, he will literally wear the same clothes forever, which do smell. To test this while we were dating, I once didn't do his clothes for a month, and he wore the same pants, socks, and shirt the entire time, and got a foot fungus. He let his hair and beard grow out so much that management finally addressed it. He's in a pretty professional job making good money. His desk has ants because he leaves old food on it. He will clean when I tell him what to clean, but he would literally let the house go to trash, so basically I manage him when it comes to cleaning. I love him to hell, and back though, so as long as I give him chores things are mostly fine. In every other aspect of our relationship he's the more dominant one, so it feels weird to give him chores, but I'll be damned if I'm the only one cleaning. On the flip side, I'm a pretty messy person myself, although not to that extreme. So it's kind of nice being married to someone who's not going to be pissed if I don't keep house. On the flip side, I am bipolar, and have gotten hallucinations, and even put in a mental hospital for 10 days. He visited me every day they allowed visitors, and he continues to tell me how awesome I am. I know that would probably be a deal breaker for most. He understands my mood cycles, and knows how to calm me down or make me feel better most times. He's a really kind dude. That he doesn't like / know how to initiate sex. That's a deal breaker for most. But everything else about him is amazing, and he is my person. We just went to therapy, talked about options, and work around it. Dunno if it counts as a deal breaker really, but he is quite lazy. He will complain about being overweight, but when I ask him to gym with me he says he can't be bothered. But he's not overweight in that it's affecting his health or anything, so it's not a concern right now. Also, his sleeping pattern is very different to mine, so we don't see a lot of each other on weekends as he sleeps till 2 p.m. and I'm up at 9. He puts up with my being messy. He isn't super tidy himself, but I am a leave this thing in a convenient place not where it lives kind of person, and it means piles of crap everywhere. I am working in it though. For me, it's his jealousy, but through me constantly reassuring him, he's gotten a lot better. It barely affects him anymore. He has no reason to be jealous. I've never been unfaithful, just his OCD is a bitch, but he's improved so much. Proud of him. For him, it's my emotions. They switch to become apathetic very often, or intensely childlike, and excitable on the other hand, but he understands it's because I grew up with a toxic parent. Living away from her is letting me slowly level these intense opposites. He talks too much, bless his heart, he talks too much. Long hours at work, but we work together so it is fine, we work similar hours. Atomic egg farts at night. She was diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis in 2015, and she uses a rollator and electric wheelchair to get around. I love her more than ever. We met in 1985. My boyfriend has PTSD, as does his sister. They are survivors of the STEM school shooting. He gets anxiety when he hears loud thuds on walls. Loud sudden noises when unprepared also alarm him. He tries to handle it alone very often, but we usually end up on the phone so I can keep him company. And if something happens while I'm around, he just gets really quiet and distant. He gets scared to ask for support sometimes and I will never know why, but I really don't mind when I hold him. That's what he always wants, is just to cuddle and tell him he's okay. It's equal though, I'm not diagnosed with anything, but he suspects I have some sort of PTSD or anxiety from being abused as a kid. My parents would beat me and degrade me daily. The self-worth issues are something I'm still working on, and he always reassures me I am irreplaceable and important to everyone. Along with my anger issues, I get angry very easily. I've never met someone so damn consistent and supportive, I swear. Insecurity/lack of confidence. And, in his opinion, his height, he's 181 centimeters, and wishes he was tall. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.